Okay, well, hi everyone. Today we're going to have a very fun presentation. I am Brenda. I am LeanDreams registered dietitian, and today we're going to see how to read a food label. A food label, it's always important to know because the things that you purchase are the things that are going to make it or break your nutrition goals. So if you manage to pick things that are natural, so fruits, vegetables, they don't have a label, they're good for you. However, when we're purchasing processed foods or processed things, we need to know exactly what we're having. So today we're going to see how you can read a food label and how you can make the best decisions. So, what is a food label? They're going to provide the information on nutrients, whether they're calories, fats, carbohydrates, proteins, vitamins, and minerals, and they're going to help you compare products and choose the healthier options. Why you should be reading a food label? So they're going to allow you nutritional control. They're going to allow you to know how many calories, how many carbs, how many fiber, proteins, fats you're having, so that you have a little bit more control of the foods that you're choosing and that you're deciding to give to your body. They can also help with disease prevention. They're going to help you avoid excess ingredients like sugars, fats, saturated fats, especially cholesterol, sodium. They're all going to help you with disease prevention and product comparison. It's going to help you choose the best product when you have two exactly or very similar products. Like, for example, when choosing breads, it can help you determine which is the best option for you. We need to understand certain important terms. So we're going to see what is light, what is low in, and what is rich in. So when most people see the word light, they immediately think that it is a product that they can have freely, that is something that they can have anytime. However, light, it means that it is 25% less compared to the original product. So for example, if we have a product that it has 100 calories, and another one that has 75 calories, it's going to be one light and the other one is going to be the regular one. So as you can see, light doesn't necessarily have means that it is free for you to have or that it is a product that has 0 calories or all of that. It just means that it has 25% of certain things compared to the original product. When it says low in, it means that it has a certain nutrient that it is low compared to the original product. It can be low in sodium, low in sugar, low in fat. So when you have a food, it is low in something, it means that it's going to have less than the original product. And rich in, it means that the nutrient is high in that particular nutrient. So mainly we talk rich in when we're talking about vitamins and minerals. So for example, when we're talking it's rich in vitamin C, it means that it has more than 20%, more or less than more than 20% of that particular nutrient. So there are a couple of steps that we need to check whenever we're going to see or read a food label. So the first one is portion size, just making sure that you understand what's the portion for that nutrition label. So in this case, when you see here, the serving size, it is 1.5 cups. It means that whenever you serve yourself 1.5 cups, this is the nutrition or the value that you're going to have. And then you see how many servings there are per container. That means how many, like the word or the phrase says, how many servings there are in a container. So for example, if you end up having the whole container, you need to multiply that nutrition label by 4 because you're having 4 servings. That's the first one. The second one is calories. Calories on their own, they're not going to give you a lot of information unless you are tracking. So unless you're tracking, you more or less know how many calories you can allow yourself to have for snacks, for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. One of the things that I normally like to check is how many calories coming from fat. So how many calories they're coming from fatty products. So hopefully it is less than half the calories coming from fats. The other one, once we have the calories, we Once we have the calories, then we can determine the macros. So this is going to be how many fats, how many cholesterol, how many sodium, carbs, and protein. So we're going to go through each one. So when you are seeing how many fats, there's going to be three things that you need to take into account. You have the total fats, which it gives you the total amount of fats that you're going to have. I normally like to give an example to know whether a food is high or low in fat. So for example, one teaspoon of butter, like melted butter, it's going to have 5 grams of fat. So I normally like for people to understand how many teaspoons of butter they're having from the nutrition label. The other one is saturated fats. The saturated fats are the unhealthier fats that we don't want to have that much. Hopefully they are. Um, I normally recommend seeing the percentage. So hopefully no more than 10-20% of saturated fats coming from whatever you are having. And the other one are trans fats. Trans fats are definitely the fats that you don't want to have. Those have been linked to heart problems. So hopefully trans fats are zero. Now, there is a very tricky thing when it comes to nutrition labels. When we have trans fats, the legislation or regulations, whenever a food has less than 0.5 grams of trans fats, they can put it to zero. So even if it says zero, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is definitely zero. One of the tricks that you can see or that you can check in the ingredients list to see if the food label or the product has trans fats is whenever you check the ingredients list, search for the word hydrogenated. So whenever an oil is hydrogenated, whether it is partially hydrogenated or hydrogenated oil, the word hydrogenated means that it's very likely for it to be trans fats. We then go to cholesterol. When it comes to cholesterol, hopefully it has less than 10-20% coming from the food that you're having. When it comes to sodium, there is a standard. So hopefully for a food to be low in sodium, it needs to have less than 200 milligrams of sodium. So as you can see here in the nutrition label, it has 430. This would be considered a high in sodium food. So hopefully you're finding foods that are less than 200 milligrams per serving. When it comes to the carbs, the total carbs don't say too much. The ones that we want to take a little bit more into account are the other things. The first one is fiber or dietary fiber. Dietary fiber, it's going to be it's a part of the carb that your body cannot digest, and it's going to promote gut health, it's going to promote good bowel movements, and it's the higher in fiber, the less sugar spikes that you're going to have. So hopefully try to find for a product that has more than 3 grams of dietary fiber per serving. When it comes to sugars, they're going sometimes to be two options: total sugars and added sugars. The ones that we want to pay a little bit more attention are added sugars. Sometimes it happens that whenever you see total sugars, it can be from the natural sugars found in the product. So that's why we want to particularly see the ones that are from added sugars. The same that I was telling you about the butter, the same is going to apply for the sugars. 1 teaspoon of sugar is going to have 5 grams. So one of the exercises that I normally like to recommend people is that they divide the added sugars by 5, and that's going to give them the amount of teaspoons of sugar that they're going to have in that particular food. Remember that we want to stay below 4 to 5 teaspoons of sugar per day, or that's around 15 to 20 grams of sugar per day. So that way you can kind of more or less see whether a food is a little bit higher or a little bit lower in the added sugars. When it comes to protein, this is a little bit more difficult to analyze. It's going to depend a lot on the nature of the product. Not all of them are going to be high in protein. However, when a food says that it is high in protein, that's when you are going to really pay attention to it. So, for example, if you're checking, I know, a Greek yogurt or a protein bar or protein chips or whatever, here's where you need to pay a little bit more attention to determine if a food is definitely higher in protein. One egg is going to have around 7 to 8 grams of protein, so that way you can kind of compare it if a food is high in protein. So, for example, if you find yourself having a protein bar that has 8 grams of protein, it just has the amount of one egg. So it might not be as high in protein as some others that may have like 15 to 20 grams of protein. So that way you can really pay attention whenever it is, when they say that a particular food is high in protein. And then the rest of the nutrients, you're going to check that they have vitamins and minerals. After all, you don't only want to focus on the macros, you also want to focus that the food that you're eating is high in nutrients. So pay attention to the percentage, how much it is giving you from vitamins or minerals, and see if it is a product worth having. Once you check the food label, it's very important to go into the ingredients list. I sometimes say maybe go to the ingredients first, or then after you analyze like the food label, go to the ingredients. The ingredients are going to come from the highest to the lowest. So they're going to come from the ones that you can find the most to the one that you can find the least. One of the things that I recommend is for you to try to have a ingredients list that it is short. The shorter it is, the less processed it's going to be. And another thing that I recommend is that make sure that the ingredients that you're reading, first, they're ingredients that you understand. If you don't understand them, more likely that they're going to be processed. And the second one is to make sure that the ingredients, they resemble a recipe, or the ingredients from a recipe. If it's something that you can produce at the comfort of your home, because the ingredients that you see there are the ones that you probably can find on your pantry or on your fridge, perfect. If you're finding yourself having ingredients that you probably are going to only find in a lab, very high, very highly processed, maybe stay away from it. So, for example, this one, as you can see, it has a very long ingredients list, and the first ingredient is going to be corn syrup. This means that it's going to be a food that it is going to be high in sugar. The second ingredient is high fructose corn syrup, another type of sugar. And then if you continue reading, there are things that you normally don't find in your pantry. So you are less likely to find modified cornstarch, lactate, polysorbate. All those things means that it's going to be a very processed ingredient or a very processed food. Okay, so now that we saw a little bit about how to read an food label, this is where it comes very handy, because it can help you determine which food or which product is going to be better for you. So, for example, here there are two options. So you have, first, remember that we need to check the portion size. In both cases, it's going to be 85 grams for the nutrition label. Okay, then we go to the calories. Okay, one has 210 calories, another one has 123 calories. So from that, we know that the first product is going to be higher in calories than the second one. But is it going to be better? That's when we need to start seeing at the ingredients. So from the fat, we see that it has 118 grams of fat compared to 17. So product 2 is definitely going to be better. It has half the amount of fat that it has, and it has less from saturated fat, 3 grams compared to 7. The only thing to stand out here is that they both have trans fats. So remember that trans fats are the ones that we want to avoid. Then we go to cholesterol, 33 grams versus 55. Both are very low, so that's fine. When it comes to sodium, The second product has 200 milligrams compared to 330. So one is high in sodium, the other one is within the recommended amount of sodium. So perfect. And then the other one is carbohydrates they're not going to have because they're burgers. They're going to be a protein-based product. So we want to check the protein. Product 2 has 14 grams of protein compared to 12 grams of protein from the first product. So just comparing these two, which one would you choose? 1 or 2? Probably 2, because it has fewer calories, fewer saturated fats, it has less sodium and more protein. However, very important again to add again, they do have trans fats, so that's when we need to start seeing whether it is important or if it's something that we can have every once in a while, or if it's better to have to search for another option that it's going to be definitely with no trans fats. Okay, I then have two other products. So for example, we have a vegetable soup and then a vegetable soup that, as you can see, it says reduced in sodium. So since it says reduced in sodium, that's a thing that we want to compare. They're going to have exactly the same calories, exactly the same fats, carbs and everything. They're going to be exactly the same, but we want to then check the sodium because it says that it's going to be reduced in sodium. So as you can see here, for the 1 cup of vegetable soup for both options, it's going to have the first option 680 milligrams compared to 340 milligrams. So as you can see, it is definitely reduced in sodium. It has half the sodium that the original product. So if you are going to choose one, the second option, the one reduced in sodium, it's probably going to be better. Now, keep in mind that remember that for a product to be low in sodium or the amount that we want to stay within, it's less than 200 milligrams. So while this is reduced in sodium, keep in mind that it is still a little bit higher in sodium. So that's when we need to consume it still in moderation, even though it says reduced in sodium. Then the second one, we have 2 peanut butters. One is extra crunchy, the one it says reduced in fat. So again, we compare the serving sizes just to make sure that they are the same, 2 tablespoons for each. Then we go to the calories. Calories are going to be the same. So then we go to the total, to the fats. One has 17 grams of fat. The other one has 12 grams of fat. So as you can see, one is going to be with less fat compared to the one that has higher fat. However, this is where we start tracking all the other macronutrients. Keep in mind that they both have the same calories, but the one that it is the regular one, it is going to be higher in fat, but as you can see, it is going to be lower in carbs. It has just 7 grams of carbs. It has 2 grams of dietary fiber and 7 grams of sugars. On the other hand, we have the same 190 calories. We have fewer fat, 12 grams, but we're going to have a little bit more sodium, still within the recommended amount, but still more sodium, and a higher carb intake, still the same amount of fiber. So here is where you decide what is best based on your goals and needs. So do you need something that it's going to provide fewer fat but a little bit more carbs, or do you need something that is going to provide less carbs and a little bit more fat? There's no right or wrong answer. It's just a matter of what is good for your goals, your needs, and everything that you need. It's just a matter of learning or understanding how to choose the best option. Questions? Hi, Natalie.
Hi, Brenda. Thank you for all the information as usual. Very, very good and very educational. I use the Yuka app. Are you familiar with that?
No. Which one?
It's spelled Yuka like in Spanish, like
I like Yuka. Uh-huh.
Y-U-K.
Uh-huh.
And I find it very, very useful for, those hidden ingredients that sometimes we think we are buying something very healthy, and suddenly it's not. And it has been very useful even for simple things like orange juice, right? I keep telling my parents sometimes, like, it's nothing wrong with buying like orange juice, but some of them are, it's just sugar. It's
Mm.
just sugar and nothing, right? And they just sell it. Oh, it's high in calcium or whatever outside, so you can get tricked. But I totally recommend this app because it has been making me differentiate even between products like that. One orange juice that is full sugar and color, and the one that is actually good. And it's super simple because it's like poor quality, moderate or something like that, and good, and with colors. So I try to buy anything. I always take things out of my cart. And after I started using these, I put things and I get them out after this rating is not good. So I just think it's useful, and sometimes I recommend it to my patients too.
No, I am looking at it. It is a very, I'll download it and give it a try. But yeah, it helps you make a food label comparison easier.
Yes, especially when you're starting this process of learning how to read labels, which can be
Mhm.
very confusing. Thank you.
I know. And in the beginning, the trip to the supermarket can be a hassle because you start reading like everything, but eventually things like you already know what things are good for you. So it's just a matter of just adding them. And yeah.
Yeah, and like you told me about the milk, for example, one of your messages is like switch oat milk for like soy because at least it gives you a little bit more than just water. And since then, I was like, wow, not all dairy-free milks are the same. And now I stick with my soy milk, and I feel that I'm doing a little bit better. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome, Natalie. Any other questions, feedback, comments?
Well, Brenda, really nice job with that. One of the other things that I think to keep in mind, and I know you touched on, was the use of preservatives and the use of ingredients to maintain freshness, quote, right? Because especially nowadays when you're getting stuff on the other side of the world and it's being packaged, whether it's bread or whether it's deli meats or whether it's any type of product, it spoils if things aren't added to it. Well, those additives, right, aren't necessarily the healthiest for us. So if you have the option of buying something that's fresh and eating it fresh, it's always, I think, preferable to adding something that has those, or eating something that has those additives to it. Not everyone has that luxury, not everyone has that ability, but as Natalie was saying with that app, Yuka, to be able to discern between products and say, you know what, I'm just going to get fresh squeezed orange juice instead of getting the orange juice that has a 6-month shelf life. If you have the option, it's better.
Yeah, and there's good options well at farmers markets. So yeah, I don't know how it works in the States, but in some other countries they have good farmers markets that they have like natural oranges that they sell.
Yeah. Sometimes it requires a little bit more planning and a little bit more
True.
shopping, but that's the price. That's the price you pay for having less additives in your body. So.
Correct. Awesome. Any other questions? Okay. If there are no other questions, it was great talking to everyone, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks for those that do the Spanish group, and if not, in a month for the English speaking one.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Brenda. Bye.
Bye.